Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from Stash Project. This is going to be our November compilation video. So for anyone who happens to be passing through, and you've never seen anything on this channel before, we do these videos once a month, and they are a rundown of the expected automotive kit releases for a given month, and this happens to be November of 2020. So we have a few bits and pieces on the domestic side, and then a few bits and pieces on the import side as well. It's not real heavy month for anyone this month in particular, but there's a smattering of goodies here and there. The Revell fourth quarter announcements we went over the other day, where it's going to be the old Monogram Roadrunner, the old Monogram S10, the Chevy Del Rey, and there's something else there that just slipped my mind. But those four kits, I assume they're trying to release them like evenly, so you get 2 in November and 2 in December. The S10, the reissue of the S10 with its new turbo all-wheel drive sleeper drivetrain, because they can't find the parts of the naturally aspirated S10 V6. That kit is already out by the time you're watching this. It'll be covered in the weekly video that may or may not have come out before you've seen this, depending on how things upload. But that kit is out, and we have no real direct knowledge, really, but no direct pointing at which one of the next kits would be coming out in terms of the domestic Revell kits. So one of those other kits may come out this month, maybe not. I would assume it would probably be the Del Rey, because it was the next thing on the top level of that line, but we'll see where it all shakes out as time goes along. At round 2, there are only 2 kits this month as of yet. There was an additional one that is not on my list that was shown in the monthly video that they did, but as of yet it's not on the actual release list. And one of these kits is from last month's video, because we've talked about this before. Round 2's videos are informative but not accurate. So the actual 2 November kits that we are expecting are the 1978 Volkswagen Rabbit. Now, AMT did their own Volkswagen Rabbit back in the Lesney era, when they did the things like the Subaru Brat and the Volkswagen Sirocco and things like that. This is not that kit. For whatever reason, they have found the old ESSI tool of the Rabbit, which is actually going to be a 124 scale car rather than a 125th scale one. And arguably, it's not as good as the AMT one. And I know you're sort of splitting hairs when you're talking about ESSI and AMT and that point in time with anybody's tooling in the late 70s and 80s. But it's going to be is what it is situation where no amount of complaining is going to suddenly magically turn it into something that it's not. It does include bumpers to do both a European version and an American version, so it could be a Golf or could be a Rabbit. Although if you're looking to build a Mark I Golf, clearly the better option is the Revell Germany kit that came out probably about 5-6 years ago at this point. But hey. I don't understand how they have access to this. This is probably something to do with the Italeri truck kits, because Italeri at this point has all of the ESSI tooling that's still in a serviceable condition. So something to do with that, I assume. We'll see if more of that shows back up, because that pairing where Ertl for a little time owned ESSI was a weird thing with the kits, and some of those kits don't ever need to see the light of day again. And this one's not that bad, but there's a few that I'm thinking of that, yeah, okay, so you say so. Also released will be another kit that nobody needs, and that is the 2006 Nissan 350Z, the old Fast and the Furious Tokyo drift car. Now, I had a debate with a friend of mine about the validity of this reissue or any of the other reissues they've done of the Supra and the Eclipse, and his opinion, and I don't want to say it's a wrong one because it's technically correct in the sense of if this is what you're looking for, that it does present a 125th scale version of that engine. And if you're trying to mod cars in 125th scale specifically, the engines, the 2JZ and the engine out of the Eclipse and this engine out of the 350Z, and possibly if they there was a Mitsubishi Lancer in this series, and I don't think anybody wants to see that show back up again, but the engine in the Lancer give you the ability to have a 125th scale JDM engine, because all of these kits are full detail. They're not curbside like a Japanese kit would traditionally be. And you might be saying, well, James, there are a much better 2JZ in the actual Supra that Tamiya did. Sure, but technically that's the wrong scale, and especially when you start swapping engines between 124th and 125th, that's when that little factor of 3% or whatever it is shows up. Now the engines are a little too big, and the wheels are a little too big, and everything else is a little too small, and so for that purpose, I can certainly see that. My argument to that was, wouldn't it be easier to have somebody, resin cast this engine, or if it's so great, and or why doesn't someone 3D draw and 3D print this engine in 125th scale? And his argument was, well, that would cost too much time, and I want to just use it for myself, and that's cool, yeah, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, are you going to go out and buy a nearly $30 AMT kit just to rob the engine out of it when a 3D printed one would cost half as much? Somebody just needs to get on that and put this thing to bed, because it's got a weird body kit to it. They sort of claim is Veilside, and maybe the hood is, but the rest of the body kit is not. I don't know who designed this kit, and I know that it vaguely resembles the movie car, but it is very, very square. Let's put it that way. But hey, to each their own in that situation. The Salvino's JR release for November is, we probably previously talked about a couple weeks ago, the Pontiac Le Mans, or Pontiac Le Mans, of the Tim Richmond Old Milwaukee livery from Rainier Racing. So that will be coming out. Over in Japan, we're going to get a release of the Lotus Super 7 Series 2 from Tamiya. Now, this is a reissue of the kit from the 1980s, but it has that new piece of PE fret added to it, the paper seat belts, the turned metal carburetor inlets, or carburetor bowls, so that, adding a little bit of flair, if you will, to an old kit. And that kit should be here available here in the United States in a few days. Tamiya USA has already been showing it around, so I would assume the distribution of it will be relatively quick, if it's not already available in certain places, because this is going to be the Japanese release of it in November, so we'll see how that goes along. And then over at Hasegawa, you have a reissue of their Volkswagen Type 2 pickups. So that's sort of like the Volkswagen van with pickup bed on it. Reissue of the BMW 2002 Ti in its 1969 Monte Carlo Rally version. Then we go into the kits that were announced. Basically, this would be the All Japan Toy and Hobby Show kits. Remember, that got canceled, but Hasegawa did a big presentation online on Twitter and Facebook and places of their kits for November, December. So those kits, starting with this, are going to be the reissue of the Lamborghini Jota with the Italian girl. Yes, resin girl. All the things. Also, the Toyota Starlet Turbo S Limited, which is basically going to be an assemblage of all the parts that have been in the Starlet kits in the last year and a half, 2 years, and now it's going to have a resin Momo steering wheel added. And then the S Limited stuff is done with decals and parts that are already in the kit. And then you get a reissue of the Toyota Celica 1600 GT in a Macau Grand Prix livery scheme. Now, looking at this livery scheme, comparing it to a few things, and talking to a few friends over in Hong Kong, what has been determined is this is the Macau Grand Prix production car, like a 2-cylinder or less production car, or base 2000cc and less production car race. This is not the Gia race of Macau. Now, Toyota did win the Gia race of Macau in 1975 when this kit is supposed to be from, but it's not that car. It's the Macau Grand Prix, which is an open wheel race and a motorcycle race, but also apparently ran a production touring car race with it back then, and this car is from that. So there's clarification of that. Then we get a reissue of the Mitsubishi Lancer with all of its new rally parts added to it to do the 1982 Finland 1000 Lakes Rally, which is that weird kit that's going to compete directly with the new kit that was just released 2 months ago, where they have the exact same car from the exact same race with the exact same livery. Pick your poison, I guess is what comes down to that. Now, again, the Mitsubishi Lancer from Nunu, which is the BMAX Mitsubishi Lancer Rally kit, has been out for 6 weeks, 8 weeks at this point. Or 8 weeks by the time this comes out, I guess I should say. You had to be waiting on the Hasegawa kit, I think, at this point. And there'll be plenty of people, especially within Japan, that are waiting on it. Especially because This Lancer rally kit has a left-hand drive dashboard in it, which a lot of people will probably pull and throw into the Mitsubishi Lancer street car to make a left-hand drive custom type of thing out of it. But be that as it may, that's coming out, and like I said, it's got probably 3 or 4 runners of new parts for all the rally parts, and the stripped down interior, roll cages, racing seats, and all that stuff. Along with there being a Hasegawa specific PE set that's going to be sold separately for it, which is not a rarity for Hasegawa, but it's a not that often. Hasegawa has done their own factory PE for a few of the rally cars. I mean, a lot of the rally cars have them in them now, like the Legacy and the Lancers and all that stuff usually come with a little tiny shred of photo etch that has been sold separately in the past. But I don't think there's been a PE specific release in probably 5-6 years now. The last time any of the PE sold separately things were reissued was when this Hasegawa rally thing started, where they started reissuing all the rally kits and then putting new decals into old kits and all that stuff. We saw the Lancia 037 PE, which is sold separately, come back out. So that'll be something out there for fans of Hasegawa specifically and rally in general. And then also, speaking of Hasegawa rally kits, is the Nissan Bluebird SSR in its rally configuration. So this is not nearly as many parts because, as we talked about before, the SSR was the most rally prepped vehicle you could purchase at a dealership. You threw some decals on it and went rallying, basically. This includes a rally computer, a different set of wheels. I believe there is a couple of other little interior bits and pieces of rally trim. And then a livery attached to it to represent the 1988 All Japan Rally Champion. So there was I think it's Group N, technically speaking, of the time, rally that was run just within the country of Japan, and this will be your championship car for that year. And then last but not least, and I think this kit may tend to lean a little bit into December, but it was officially on November's list when it came out, is that all-new tool, Nissan Skyline R32 GTR, Nismo edition. So they, again, I think this is now a 12/4 release, like the first Monday of November, or December rather, but we're going to stick it here because it may come out early. A lot of times when Hasegawa says shipping complete release date on a blah, it actually comes out like 3 or 4 days earlier. It's the online vendors, like your Hobby Search, your Hobby Link Japan, and stuff like that, tend to get the kits a few days before they're actually on the hobby shop shelves, which is sort of the way a lot of the mail-in vendors work. Sometimes you'll see a model roundup or Tower Hobbies or stuff like that actually get things in a few days earlier than a brick and mortar hobby shop because, volume, right? Your Tower Hobbies, your model roundup, your mega hobby, places like that are going to be buying kits in case loads rather than like, oh, give me 6 of these, 5 of those kind of things like a local hobby shop might. So that, like I said, remains to be seen when that comes out, but it is done. It's on its way. Test shots have been shown, and yeah, very excited for that because there's clearly a race component to this car. The rear trunk lid is separate the way it is on the R31 Skyline, which clearly was because the R31 Skyline has 2 giant holes in the trunk where the fill necks go in, so that should be a interesting kit to see January, February, March, April. Hasegawa announcements to see what race car we're going to get out of that first and what race cars we get out of it in general. That'll take us over to Aoshima to round out this video. So a bunch of reissue stuff here. 74 Honda Life, which is the 1/20th scale little minivan. I think technically it's a K car. The 1991 Mitsubishi Delica Star Wagon, the 1996 Mitsubishi Delica Space Gear, the 1979 Suzuki ST30 Carry panel van, the 1998 JZX Toyota Mark II Tourer 5 in the BN Sports edition, the 2002 R34 GTR C West, the 1996 Toyota Sora Vertex, and the 2015 Lamborghini Aventador SV gets a rerun. Of the changed, long ago, far away, minor decals, whatever you want to consider it to be, kits for November on Aoshima, are the 4-in-1 Nissan Elgrin kit. Now, this will build either a 94 or a 1999 Nissan Elgrin, Highway Star, the Rising Star, Road Touring, I can't remember what the other trim level is. Also, turns out a Nissan Elgrin X, which is just the base trim level. Technically, that makes it a 6-in-1, but the parts are in there, fascias, bumpers, trim, wheels, and things like that. They either build the early version or the late version, and then a couple of different trim levels within those, and all those trim levels were factory trim levels, so there's no tuner parts or VIP van parts of this. It's all just factory. And then the next one will be another 4-in-1 kit of the 1994 Toyota Estima Lucida, or the Emina, which are the Estima is what we got here as a Toyota Previa. Now, because of the weird ways tax laws work in Japan, if you make a car so wide and so long and so heavy and so engine powered, it goes into a different tax bracket. So what they did was make a shorter, narrower version of it, and that is the Lucida and the Emina, or Emina. It's just a noise after a while. And there's two different basically trim levels. One's sort of a luxury van, one's sort of a regular van. This includes the ability to build it as a late or an early, again, depending on the fascias and the wheels and things like that. So lots of options there. That kit hasn't been seen since the mid-1990s. The Estima was last, or the Elgren was last reissued in 2004, so it's a long time ago as well. Then you're going to get a reissue of the 1980 Subaru Sambar high roof panel truck, and that's going to be a Japanese post office, but Japan Post is what they call it. Specific tie-in that's going to have a little resin, like 1970s, 1980s Japanese mailbox included. So that's sort of the tie-in there. I also don't think there's ever been a Japan Post vehicle, so the decals are new as well. And then you get your reissue of the 1982 Nissan Skyline R30 Super Silhouette, which of course is the Japanese version of Group 5, basically. And this is going to be the upgrade kit, where a whole bunch of the interior and the chassis and whatnot are going to get a PE treatment, the way that the 9 Hours of Kyalami car did, a couple 3-4 weeks ago when that kit came out last month. So, again, upgrading that kit a little bit. And then the last of those, new, if you will, kits for November is the 1992 Range Rover Custom Off-Road. This has, brush guard off-road lights, bigger wheels, or bigger tires, different set of wheels, roof rack, ladder to the roof rack on the back. Think of your Montero Sport Option, your Highland, your it's not even a Hilux, actually. Technically, it's a Land Cruiser, but your Land Cruiser Sport Option kits that came out of Tamiya, where they had bigger tires, bigger wheels, and all the off-road stuff. So same sort of principle there. And that kit hasn't seen the light of day since the mid-1990s. The Range Rover is the same Range Rover that got reissued a few months ago, which again hadn't been seen since the 1990s. But this has all the off-road parts added to it. So that will be coming. And then these are just spot runs for November to wrap up this video. The 2012 Subaru BRZ, the 1998 Toyota Chaser Toro 5, the 1999 Nissan Silvia S15 Spec R, the 1999 Nissan Silvia S15 Vertex, the 1985 Toyota Truno 86 in its N2 body kit, the Nuremberg 2 body kit, and then the 1983 Toyota AEJ 611 in its Toyota Racing Development body kit, and then the Wingset 1 and the Wingset 2, which each have 3 sets of wings. All are very, very period wings that wouldn't really necessarily look appropriate on anything modern, but if you're building a 70s, 80s, early 90s car, they have a place. Those got reissued, beginning of this year, so it's just a rerun of those. And that, guys, unless something pops, is that. We do have the possibility this month in November also from New of getting the 1988 24 Hours of Spa BMW M3, the Macau Fiat GT, Audi R8 GT3 kits, the 2 Team Phoenix cars that ran. Also, possibly the Marlboro sponsored, although you're going to probably have to buy the aftermarket to get that, McLaren MP4 2C. Like, there's too many numbers and letters in that. Let me slow it down and think about it. But all of those kits were supposed to come out early in the summer, then September, then last month, then this month. They're sliding around. They've slid around a little bit this month already. As you're watching this, it's probably like after Election Day. So we'll see when those come out. There may be a situation where those kits come out in November in Hong Kong, but we don't actually see them distributed globally until the beginning of December, which makes them nice Christmas presents. But those 3 kits are also the last 3 new things that are currently on a pre-order in Hong Kong. So that leaves us with things like the 24 Hours of Spa Crawl 11, I think the Cruise, the Chevy Cruise with the 2013 Macau World Touring Car Championship livery is still a thing that's planned. The M8. We got, if you watch this week's video, as well, we got the test shots for the Quattro Sport S1 that ran at the very, very last race of the 1986 touring season, or rally season. It was the last of the Group B cars that ever ran. It's not all wings and crazy aero the way the E2 is. It's much more. It's still a short wheelbase car, but it's much more sedate, much slower, saner. Group B on its way out there before Group A took over in 1987. And yeah, then it just remains to be seen, like what all we should get. I know what's coming. I'm not allowed to tell you about some of it, but like what is known quantities of things, we're kind of running low on those too. So it'll be interesting to see what is sort of teased, because you still have things like the Audi A4 touring car that was shown in CAD, and then you have the Porsche 911 Group B rally car that was shown in CAD. And those kits are obviously still coming. There's at least three more kits coming off of the brand new 320 chassis. There's a S2000 trim level. There's the M3 GTR. There's the E90 World Touring Car. They'll all be based off that basic kit architecture. There's a Japanese version. There's another JTC M3 out there, the Being car that hasn't been released yet. So there's plenty of things, but we don't really have a clear list of what's coming after November. So it'll be interesting to see when that finally gets updated. So also, before we go, November will give you from Hobby Design a PE set for the Mustang GT4. So if you've been waiting on those should be out by the end of the month as well. So that wraps up this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you saw some stuff in there that you plan to purchase, and we'll see you guys on the other side.